Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are starting a new series called Homegrown Discipleship. And with what's going on in the world and everyone being at home, we thought it would be good to lead worship from our house. So welcome to our house, and other leaders will be leading in their homes also. But we want to invite you in, not just to our home, but also to the idea that you might be in your living room, you might be in a car, you might be watching on a computer, on a cell phone, whatever it is, maybe on your TV with your family around, but to engage, to listen, to sing, to sit, reflect, and just to worship God. We are doing a song that we think is super appropriate for where the world's at right now, especially for us who are Christ followers, and we're waiting on God, asking, what do you want to do in this time in us? And so we felt like this song was very, very fitting.
Slow down, take time, breathe in, he said. He'd reveal what's to come. The thoughts in his mind, always higher than mine. He'll finish all he's begun. Take courage, my heart. Stay steadfast, my soul. He's in the waiting. He's in the waiting. Hold on to your hope as your triumph unfolds. He's never failing. He's never failing. Sing praise, my soul, find strength and joy. Let his words lead you on. Do not forget his great faithfulness. He'll finish all he's begun. So take courage, my heart. Stay steadfast, my soul. He's in the waiting. He's in the waiting. Hold on to your hope as your triumph unfolds. He's never failing. He's never failing. And you hold the stars. Who call them each by name will surely keep your promise to me, and I will rise in your victory. And you who hold the stars, who call them each by name, will surely keep your promise to me, and I will rise in your victory. The grander earth has quaked before, moved by the sound of his voice. The seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken for my regard. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me. for me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see. And this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. Oh, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. So take courage, my heart. Stay steadfast, my soul. He's in the waiting. He's in the waiting. Hold on to your hope as your triumph unfolds. He's never failing. He's never failing.
Well, hello, everyone. I just want to say thank you for joining us once again at Blue Ridge Online. My name's Jeremy, and I'm one of the pastors here at Blue Ridge. Our hope here at Blue Ridge, through this unique and strange season, is to do what we've always set out to do, and that is help people follow Jesus. And one of the things that is vital to doing this is connection with one another. You see, even during this time of physical distancing, we need to be socially connecting with one another. Because of this, we're committed to finding as many ways as possible to connect with and care for one another during this time where we can't physically be together. So, with this in mind, we want to encourage you to visit our virtual community page on our website at blueridge.org/virtual community, where you will find all sorts of connection points with people and groups who are together journeying out following Jesus through this challenging season. Again, that is blueridge.org/virtual community. Now, I know for some of us, being home, isolated with news 24 hours a day playing these COVID-19 updates, it has triggered for us feelings of anxiety, fear, worry, and maybe even depression. Please don't walk through this alone. We want to connect with and help care for you. If you would go to blueridge.org/get help, someone from Blue Ridge will get back to you within 24 hours to connect with you and start you down the path to get the help and care you need in this season. Again, that is blueridge.org/get help. And finally, for those of us who are watching and call Blue Ridge home, if you aren't already doing so, would you prayerfully consider giving financially online or through our Text to Give platform so that together we can continue to connect with and care for one another and our community as more and more needs arise in this coming season? You can find out all the information you need to do this at blueridge.org/give. Now today, we are beginning a whole new series, and I truly believe this can be a game changer for us if we as a church are committed to engaging with this during this season. Love you all and truly miss you.
A single breath, separated by a thin veil of ever-passing moments. A drop on the brow, a foot striking earth. A question, beckoning all to its call. Every exhale, woven into the tale of heroes grown from long nights and empty rooms. Of hard strife and defeated tombs. The authors take the stage in defiance of the blank page. What we write, we will become, lost in the rhythm of our own drums. We beat our fists and grasp the next breath. In fog, we strain, yet still attain. Holding to the motion, our strength swells as oceans. With each storm that sets our hearts ablaze, the horizon crests another wave. Leaving behind the battles we've won, our lives, our spark, our goal is the sun. Forever, we run.
We're talking about, in this season of our life, something called discipleship. That's probably not something that you either understand, or it's not a familiar word. Maybe it's not even a pleasant word for you. Maybe it's just a religious word, but it's an important word. I mean, Jesus thought it was, because the last thing he told us to do before he left here was to make disciples, go all over the world and make disciples. Well, since it's in a sense an unfamiliar word, then the first thing is to revisit the definition of what it means to be a disciple, or what is a disciple. And if you'll remember, we use Jesus' own words to define discipleship. That is the first thing he said to the first people he invited to follow him: "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." And so what we've done is taken those three elements: follow me, I will make you, and fishers of men, and we've given them a graphic representation with three overlapping circles. The first circle is to follow. That's what the disciple does. That's what I do, you do. The second part of it, the second circle, has to do with God's part. That is, we are being made. Jesus said, "I will make you." So that's his part of it. And then the third circle is what we do together. That is, we go on mission with Jesus. And so what is the extension of this? What is the application of this? Well, as you look at these three circles as they overlap, it's called a Venn diagram, actually, and you've probably seen them. But as the circles come together, where they overlap, that area gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the process of becoming a disciple. If those circles get bigger or they move toward the center, they overlap more and more, and that is the life of Jesus. And the life of Jesus is what he came not only to live, but to give. to give to us. And I don't know that I would get much argument if I were to say to you, or I were to ask you, would you like to have the life of Jesus? I mean, I don't know what you think about Jesus. Maybe he's just a really good person. I mean, there's a lot of historical evidence that such a person lived. There's a lot of experiential evidence because he's changed a lot of lives. I would be exhibit A in that. But whatever you believe of him, what we know of him, his life is one we'd like to have. His life would be the perfect illustration, example of patience. And I know that most of us would like patience, especially since we've been at home with our families. We're maybe trying to do things with technology that we're not familiar with, or we just don't like it. Just even this week, Nan has said, sometimes it seems like you are impatient with me. And so I still express those kinds of things. I'm sure you do too. For example, Jesus was one who expressed self-control. That was evidenced in his life. And I know you'd like self-control. This week, someone brought us a cherry pie. So the first night, I cut a big slice, and I heated it up, and I put a big clump of vanilla ice cream on it, and it was delicious. It was actually a little too big. The second night, I cut another big piece. But after I finished eating that piece, I went back. I knew I shouldn't. On one level, I didn't want to, but I cut another, not quite so big, but another piece, and I ate that. Maybe you would like self-control. I know that peace, in the middle of this COVID-19, who wouldn't want peace? And Jesus said, my peace I give you, not like the world gives, but my peace I give to you. And so I think I know that human beings would like to live differently, would like to live lives which are more like the life of Jesus, whatever you think of Jesus. And that's what we want to do. That's what we want to help you do as we move into this next series. Now, I want to share with you as an application of this something that's made a huge difference in my life. In fact, what I'm going to end with today, last night I was laying in the bed with Nan, my wife. I turned to her and I mentioned this, and I said, has it made any difference? Have you seen a difference? And she said, absolutely, with real conviction. She said, absolutely. And then she listed the ways that I love her better, that I love God more or more obviously, that I'm willing to take risk for God, that I am gentler with her and with other people. And so this is something that can make all the difference in a marriage, in your life, in your social relationships. And so as we jump into it, I'm jumping into it with the assumption that we would love to be different, that we would love to be more like Jesus. Now, how do we do that? That becomes the question. How did I get there? Well, I think there are several things that we need to be aware of as we move into this process. There are some things that, answers to that question. Well, how can a person become like Jesus? We want to end up better than we are now. We would like for the future to be better. For example, how many of you have been to Lowe's or Home Depot or even Walmart, and or how many of you and seen the people that are doing all kinds of projects? I know we're doing it, and I did a Facebook Live post this week, and I took people out back of my house, and I showed them where I had torn out the ivy and and replanted it, and with periwinkle. And a couple of days ago, Nan said, hey, we got a little time, which I don't seem to have a lot of time, to be honest with you. I'm doing the same things I used to do, and I'm just doing them much more awkwardly and having to learn new processes. But anyway, she said, we need to paint the bathroom. Night before last, she said, could you help me upstairs in the attic, and we could put up some racks to hang things on and some, maybe in a couple of shelves. And so I suspect the same thing is happening around your house, because we want to come out of this better than we went into it. And we have an opportunity to do that. And I think the same is true with our spiritual lives, because this COVID-19 has disrupted our experience, disrupted our lives. We don't know what the future will look like, but we know that it won't be identical to the past. And just as that's true in our work lives, in our social lives, it also is true in our spiritual lives. And that's what I want to talk to, and we want to talk to over the next few weeks. I just want to give you an overview of what we'll be doing over the next few weeks. But before I do that, before I tell you about my experience, I just want to start out with an assumption. And the assumption is often, and maybe to add to the assumption, that is, we all know that Jesus wants us to do what he said to do. We all know that Jesus is an example for us and instructs us, but I think it goes a little further than that. That is, he doesn't just want us to believe in him. He doesn't just want us to obey him. He does want those. But he wants us, if we want to be transformed, to do the things that he did. It's called a Christocentric view. It's not just doing what Jesus said, it's doing what Jesus did. And so what does that look like? As we look at the New Testament, we see in 1 John chapter 2, verse 6, those who say they live in God should live their lives as Jesus did. And as we do that, then we have the greatest, or we have the only, I think, opportunity for transformation, because we want to change. We would love to change. We would love to be different. And especially, I think for many of us, I know I would. I mean, even doing the things that I knew I should do, for many years, they became old and stale and really ineffective. And what I began to do 5-6 years ago has changed all of that. It's what Nan was talking about. And so I want to share that with you, but I need to get some things out of the way before you probably are able to embrace what I'm going to be talking about. One of the things that we need to understand in true transformation, Dallas Willard, a writer that we quote a lot around here, who has written a lot on this particular subject, says this: true transformation is possible if we are willing to rearrange our lives around those activities that Jesus engaged in. Not just believe in Jesus, not just do what Jesus said, but to do what Jesus did. Now, what were they? Well, that's what we're going to unpack for you, but over the next few weeks. But right now, wanting to sort of strip away some of the things that might keep us from that, and hopefully give you a vision for what can happen in your life, for the same thing that happened in my life. And so one of the problems, I think, is that we have divided our physical lives from our spiritual lives. This has been a problem from the very beginning of Christianity for 2,000 years. It's called, the Greeks, it came from the Greeks, it's called dualism. And dualism just means that the spiritual part of our life, that's good. But the physical part of our life, we're just going to sin, and we have these natural urges, and that's kind of bad. But the two are separate, and one doesn't affect the other. But the reality is, one does affect the other. We know that our spiritual life affects our physical life. But sometimes we're not quite so aware that our physical life dramatically affects our spiritual life. And that what we do physically determines who we become spiritually. I mean, this is the parallel between the physical and the spiritual as it's expressed and reflected in passages like 1 Timothy chapter 4. In 1 Timothy chapter 4, Paul there says, train yourselves to be godly. Train yourselves to be godly. Physical training is good, but training for godliness is much better, promising benefits in this life and the life to come. This is a trustworthy saying. You can depend on it, and everyone should accept it. What's he saying here is that physical training is a good thing, but spiritual training is also good. Training is the way that we become who we want to be. I mean, you can take physical, just physical training. I mean, for example, if you were to take bodybuilding, how does a person become a bodybuilder? How do they achieve the body that they want, that they have? Well, it comes through training. It's a process that happens over time. And it's a process that includes all of their lives. One guy who was, actually his name was Kent Merritt, and he was Mr. Missouri. He was a bodybuilder, and he says this: you must arrange your life around those activities that will enable you to do by training what you cannot do by trying. It will enable you to do by training what you cannot do by trying. And so this is an important distinction here, because we all know, for example, if I go downstairs, you saw my weight bench, and if I want with all of my heart to bench press 400 pounds, it really doesn't matter how much I want, how much I try, it's not going to happen. However, that's by trying. However, if I go into a regimen of training, then over 6 months or a year or whatever, it's very conceivable I could do that. Or if I wanted to run a marathon, if I went out of here today with all of the good intentions and with all of the willpower in the world, and I determined I'm going to run a marathon, I couldn't do it. I'll just tell you, I couldn't do it. I've gone on camping trips and hiking and climbing where people said, I think I can make it based on my willpower. It didn't work. But if I were to start in a process of training to run a marathon, then in 6 months, a year, whatever, I probably could. I believe that I could. And the same thing is true in our spiritual lives. That is, we cannot do the things that we want to do and be the people we want to be simply by trying. In fact, if we do it that way, what we end up with is guilt and failure and discouragement, because we've tried really hard, but it didn't work. We couldn't sustain it. And so if this is true, the trying versus training, if we were to drop back and look at this training piece as the key to becoming spiritually fit, just like it's the key to becoming physically fit, then we can identify with what Paul says as he writes to Timothy. We just looked at that 1 Timothy passage. Physical training is good. We need to train ourselves to be God. I love this word, actually. The Greek word is gymnazo. And the first three letters, if I transliterated the Greek letters, it would be G-Y-M. You know what that spells? Gym. It is the word from which we get gymnasium. It is the word which pictures people training physically. And Paul says these are parallel to one another. Just as we train physically, we get into a process physically to become who we want to be able to do the things we want to do. So spiritually, we have to do the same thing. Now, I'm not saying there's not work and effort involved in any of us who've ever entered into a training regimen. We know that it's not all fun. As you walk through my basement, I'll be honest with you, I don't get any pleasure immediately out of lifting weights, out of even running. I know some of you know, the endorphins and all of that, and God bless you, but that's not the way it works for a lot of us. So why do I do these things? Well, for me, the immediate reason is that by doing them, I'm able to climb mountains, to backpack, to do the things I really love to do. It's the same thing I suspect is true with, a basketball player. It's not just that they dribble and shoot and pass the ball. They want to be able to perform when they're in the game. And we want to be able to perform in life and especially in our spiritual life. And so training versus trying is critical. And we can, again, learn a lot from the process of physical training that applies to spiritual training. And so we want to do that over the next few weeks. That is, we want to give you some of the things that are important in spiritual training. when you are training, one of the things you realize pretty quickly is that there must be a time, a set time. There must be a particular set of activities that you do, that there must be repetitions, that you don't do it just once, that there's even a place where you do this. And if you do this, you will end up as a different person. Let me tell you the word that I used to capture what I mentioned to Nan last night. And the word, and some of you have heard me use it, the word is chair time. Now, I heard this in a conference setting. An older guy mentioned it, and I don't know what, this was a Business on Mission conference, and I don't remember anything else he said. But maybe this will happen for you today. Something that I say will be something that God says to you that will lodge in your heart and in your consciousness and in your desire. But what he said was, and it was sort of offhand, but he said, this is really important, that I give God, and I think that you, in fact, everybody should give God 1 hour out of 24. Now, don't get hung up on the 1 hour thing. But I listened to him and I said, that's true. Now, I know there's all sorts of objections. For example, you might be saying, I don't know where I'd find another hour. I didn't know where I'd find it either. But he went on to address that. He said, just get up an hour earlier. And you say, well, I would be tired. And he addressed that. He said, well, you're going to be tired when you go to bed anyway. And so I took him at his word. And for the last 5 or 6 years, that's what I have done. And it has made an enormous difference. Not only one that I can experience and see, but one that Nan can experience and other people have commented on. And it's simply a result of this training regimen. Now, we're going to give you, if you say, I don't think I could pray for an hour or read the Bible for an hour, don't worry about that. But what we are going to do, what I want to do, is to let you know that we can be somebody different. And it's not as a result of our trying harder, but it's a result of entering into a training process, which will require us setting aside a time, a place, a set of activities. It will require us repetitions. But if we do, then those endorphins that come from running, the way that even I feel, I don't really enjoy lifting weights or whatever, but I am glad. I feel good about having accomplished it, finished it, and I really feel good about it when I can do the things that I love to do, that I want to do, and I'm glad that I did it. And so if we don't go at it with this understanding, it's probably not going to last. It'll be like New Year's resolutions. 80% of people who make New Year's resolutions have deserted them by the first or second week in February. And that's the way for a lot of us, that's the way our spiritual life has been. But the reality is that God wants a new existence for us. He wants to enlarge the life of Jesus in us. And it is a life of joy and completeness and feeling his pleasure. And so we're inviting you to take this journey with us over the next couple of months, actually, and to enter into it with us. As I said, it will take energy and commitment on your part. But as you do, you will come out the other end, and you will go through the process, and you will see yourself change, and other people will see you change as well. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24. And Paul says, don't you realize that in a race, everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win. I'm not talking, and he's not talking about beating other people. He's not talking about competition against the other as much as he is the way that we run to win, not half-heartedly. Or as he goes on to say, all athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away. In that case, the laurel wreath that people won in the Olympics, but we do it for an eternal prize. So I run with purpose in every step. I am not just shadow boxing. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. And so we want to invite you into a process. We want to start this week and just give you, sort of ease you into it, if you will. We want to help you run to win. We want all of us to become disciples, to become somebody that we're not now, that we could not be by trying, but we can be by training. And so would you come with me on this journey? The first step that we've come up with for you to get used to this and start this process is something that we're going to explain here in a moment. Jeremy's going to explain it to you. You can just go and he'll give you all the details to blueridge.org, to reading plan. It's a plan that by one of my favorite old authors, A.W. Tozer, and it will get you started in this journey, and we'll be adding to it week by week. So would you come with us? Would you come with me on this spiritual journey to being spiritually fit? On your part, it means run, go, move like you want to win.
Hey everyone. I'm personally excited to see what God will do in and through us as we commit to these reading plans as a community over the next season. So, how do you join a reading plan? Well, 2 hopefully simple steps. First, go and download the YouVersion Bible app. Second is to go to blueridge.org/reading plan, where you will find a list of groups located around our community. Please click on the group nearest to you and you will be directed to the reading plan for that week. That's it. Hope you all have a great and wonderful week as we help people follow Jesus together.